Welcome in to Kickin It with Jake and Noah, Episode 7, featuring Byron. So, we got a little feature in there, of course. We're here to talk to you about a lot of stuff, but last week we did the French predictions, the Ligue 1. So, we got now the Prem, because that's the next league, I believe, in terms of start date. We've got transfer news, including Romelu Lukaku, Guillermo Ochoa, Ross Barkley, Arturo Vidal, and, of course, we have Own Goal. Here with me, my co-host, Jake Liker, and, of course, Byron Tollefson. So we'll start with Jake. Jake, how are you today?
I am doing well. We're about 2 weeks away from the beginning of the Prem, aren't we? I'm pumped.
I know. I think everybody's pumped. Byron, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. It's the first time doing this, not actually with you guys, so I'm all the way, I don't know, about 3 hours away from each of you, so it's good to be doing this over Google Hangouts, summer going along, and Premier League starting up pretty soon.
Yeah, so let's dive right into it, but before we do, number to call, 224-563-8444. Again, that's 224-563-8444. Also, you can like us on Facebook at Kickin It with Jake and Noah. Again, that's Kickin It with Jake and Noah. We are one like off 340, so it would be much appreciated. And yeah, let's get started. Oh, actually, before we do that, you two probably have stuff you want to plug as well. Jake.
Rookies Roundup, pretty good show. You may or may not have heard of it. If you haven't heard of it, like it on Facebook. If you have heard it and haven't liked it on Facebook, then you should probably go do that now. I'd really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at Jake Liker, Instagram Jake_Liker, and yeah, I think that's it.
And Byron.
Well, if you guys play FIFA 14 or any type of FIFA, I make FIFA play reviews on YouTube. The channel name is Bison. I specialize in goalies. It has around 3,200 subscribers, almost 500,000 views. So check me out at Bison, BYSON, and also the Twitter for that page at BisonYT for Bison YouTube.
Okay, now, after all of that, I think we can start. And we are going to start with our Premier League predictions. And we're just going to start with our overall thoughts of, this year's Premier League. Last year we had a very interesting race. Arsenal owned the lead for a little while. Liverpool, of course, looked like they were going to win it. And, of course, Manchester City came in and snatched it out of Liverpool's mouth. But this year is a new year, clean slate for every single team. So we'll start with Jake. Jake, just some overall thoughts of the Premier League this year.
Well, I think, I'm certainly focusing as finally this is my first year I'm going to be able to watch the full year of action in Premier League. I'm excited to see how Spurs will do, although I already have a bad feeling about it. And I want to see how Man U can respond to last year. And I think that the addition of course, Louis van Gaal as the new boss there is really going to shake things up. And I want to also see if Everton can finally get into that Champions League spot. They were close. We'll see if they can finish it out this year. Of course, they've made some big moves, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay, Byron, what are your thoughts on the Premier League?
Well, I think it was a great season overall. Liverpool, really, two players in the top goal scorers of the entire Premier League, that being Luis Suarez and Daniel Sturridge. It really was a great season. It was really rough that Liverpool couldn't pull it off, but in the end, Man City really had that consistency and really big wins down the stretch. My favorite team is Everton, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but Romelu Lukaku, they look to come back this year and potentially make the top four, and also getting Ross Barkley back. They were this close last year, and I think with the improvement of Lukaku and Barkley, they can be a real contender for the top four this year in the Premier League.
Okay, yeah. Now on to me. You know what? I think last year was really unpredictable. And I want to look at Chelsea a lot. Because of the fact that this is a team that spends a lot of money and was unable to get it last year. Jose Mourinho, the self-proclaimed special one of the better coaches right now in the world, if not the best tactically. Unfortunately, the past couple of years, including his time at Real Madrid, he just didn't put up the trophies to match that, getting one La Liga title, one Copa del Rey title. He's definitely going to look to win this year and try to go far as well in the Champions League. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Of course, Manchester City and Liverpool, how they respond to the loss of Luis Suarez, how Raheem Sterling starts to develop. that'll be interesting as well. And of course, Jake, you touched on it, how the Louis van Gaal revolution works, if his 3-5-2 or however he chooses to play will work for Manchester United. So we're going to go into dark horses, the teams that may not necessarily be the favorites, but still have a very good shot of maybe making the Europa League or maybe even making the Champions League. And we'll start with you, Byron.
Well, I know this is a little bit of a homer and a fanboy for Everton by saying this, but I really do think it's Everton. They are an all-around great team, great, unbelievable chemistry with the squad. You see Roberto Martinez leading the squad a year after losing David Moyes, who, although he did terrible at Manchester United, was very good for Everton. They really came together and had a great season. Down the stretch, they lost some tough games, which knocked them out of the top four. But remember, you got Romelu Lukaku at striker, Ross Barkley, Leighton Baines, Tim Howard, who's the monster goalie for Everton. This is an all-around good team, and now they have that big striker in Lukaku who will only get better and better. This guy's going to be on the team for another 5 years unless Real Madrid snaps him up like they do with everyone else. I think this is a dark horse team, not necessarily to win the Premier League because I think that's a little bit out of reach, but definitely make the top four or even higher than that. That's a dark horse for me to do well in the Premier League.
Jake, are you going to have a little bit of Tomerism too with Tottenham, or do you have somebody else in mind?
Well, in my short tenure as a Tottenham fan, I've learned that nothing good will ever happen. So no, I'm not going with Tottenham here. I was actually also going to say Everton. I really like what they saw. I really like Roberto Martinez. I think the whole country sort of got to know him when he joined the ESPN's crew for World Cup analysis. And again, a big pickup today, Romelu Lukaku. I too remain really excited to see what they can do and how they can build on what they did last year because they were so close. They have that chance, and they're so close they can just taste it. And I think that this is Everton's year to get a spot in the Champions League. Who will they swap out with? We'll have to see. I mean, Liverpool is a possibility, although they've done a good job so far, perhaps filling the void left by Luis Suarez. We will see. But I, too, like what Everton is doing, and I think this year could be their year. Or at least to make it to the Champions League. Again, not to win the whole thing, but top four, maybe third place. I'm very intrigued by what the Toffees can do.
Well, I'm going to go a different route here, and I'm going to go even more of an underdog, a really big dark horse. I'm going to go Newcastle. Newcastle, of course, they lost their star right back, Mathieu Debuchy, to Arsenal, which obviously hurts. But how they responded was what I like. They brought in a variety of young players. They brought in young striker Ayoze Perez. They brought in Jack Colback. They brought in Siem de Jong from Ajax. They brought in Remy Caballa, and they brought in the French River Emmanuel Riviere from Monaco. They brought in a bunch of talented players, and of course, they have a lot of talent already in place. This team, you know what? I think they're a good team. They've always had those points in time where they've looked like an elite Premier League team, and then they've kind of just dropped off. But I like Alan Pardew this year to be able to lead this team at least to a Europa League spot. It's going to be hard to get into that Champions League spot, but I definitely think that they have the talent to get that Europa League spot without a doubt. So, we move on now. Next up on the list, we got the Champions League teams. Who are the teams that you guys think will end up in the Champions League? Of course, there are only 3 guaranteed spots, and then, of course, the 4th playoff spot. And let's start with Jake.
It is really tough here. I mean, I did just say that Everton was my dark horse team, so I'm going to put them in. I like what Arsenal is doing. I really like the pickup of Alexis Sanchez. We're going to put him in. I like what Manchester United is doing as well. I think Louis van Gaal will be successful there. That's 3. So, really at this point, I'm torn between Liverpool and Chelsea. And what Liverpool had last year was special. They had their chance. And I think that Chelsea has made the moves necessary to remain in the Champions League. So Chelsea will be that team.
Okay, I'm going to go second because I haven't gone second yet. Arsenal is one of my teams. Manchester City is one of my teams. And I'm going to go Liverpool. is one of my teams. I'm going to leave Chelsea out. I'm going to put Manchester United in. Because Louis van Gaal is... Well, he may be a tyrant, and he could be insane for all we know. But he is an amazing coach. Tactically, he knows how to get the players to play well. He knows how to fit players into his system. And though he has a very structural system, I think it works. He's added the players to run it. And, of course, if they can get Arturo Vidal, they'll be an immediate threat, of course. But if not Man U, Chelsea. And, of course, I'm putting Manchester United in as a kind of a little bit of hope for myself because I am a Man U fan. But I would probably say that if I wasn't a Man U fan, I would throw Chelsea in there. Byron.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough question. I think I agree with you on Manchester United. I think the acquisitions that they got with Luke Shaw, Herrera, aren't necessarily the sexiest acquisitions, but those are some guys that will fill in some spots for them. I really think that this team will do well in the Champions League because of Louis van Gaal. The way he coaches has been masterful, and I think he can really unite Wayne Rooney, Robin van Persie, that attack and score goals for Manchester United. As termed as a top four, I would put Chelsea in there. I think Diego Costa will have a good season. A lot of people are picking him to really bust at Chelsea. I think he'll be solid for them. Maybe not as good as Atletico Madrid, and that is an all-around great team. Remember Eden Hazard at left mid. This guy is a monster. Very young, had an insane season. I think Chelsea's in there. Manchester City, I really think, is one of the locks for that. They are an overall great team, and I think that they are going to be in it once again. And I love Everton's chances for this year, so I'm really stuck between Arsenal and Everton. But I think for now I'm going to put in Everton unless I see some real consistency from Arsenal. But again, down the stretch last year, Arsenal lost some big players. Aaron Ramsey was injured, and for them, they were out of title contention once all those injuries happened. If they can stay healthy and perform well, they can be in it. But I think I'm going to go Chelsea, Man City, Man U, like I said, and Everton, with Arsenal competing with Everton for that fourth spot. I don't see Liverpool having the same season that they did last year.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Liverpool because I still like them. Of course, they lost Suarez, which is a big blow. But, you know what? They're a very young and talented team. They have... Basically, their whole team was between Uruguay and between England. I think, 13 or something, 11 players who played for Liverpool played in that game. Well, Sturridge, of course, is going to have to carry a big load. But I like Raheem Sterling this year to really break out, to really have his best year yet. Jordan Henderson, of course, is phenomenal. And I think that this team has what it takes to put on a show, really... make their way in there because they're young and talented. I think that if they don't make it this year, I think the year after that will be another good year for them because I think they've set themselves up very well for the future. They have very good depth in terms of who they will have. And, of course, Brendan Rodgers has done a terrific job since getting to Liverpool after that whole little era in the middle where they just couldn't seem to find the right coach for themselves. But I think they've got their fit now. Of course, I think this year is one of the hardest years to actually make the Champions League in the Prem. So many good teams. It's gonna come down to being able to stay healthy, being able to keep your mojo, and not really letting one little loss throw you into a tailspin because of how competitive it is.
I just want to point something else out here. While they lost Suarez, they did make some good moves in this transfer window, and I'm especially excited to see what will Dejan Lovren do, Croatia, the Croatian, and what will Adam Lallana do from Southampton. I'm really excited to see how those two will perform for Liverpool because you're right, I do think they have a shot, and I think it will be them, and I believe Chelsea contending for that fourth and final spot, and they certainly have the ability to do so, but they got to be able to use that experience they now have, and I think that these new acquisitions are going to be key for them down the line.
Yeah, Byron, so, Chelsea, of course, if they don't win this year, there's going to be a lot of talk about whether or not Mourinho is doing the right job because of how much money he spends and how he is the self-proclaimed special one. So what do you think about the whole Chelsea scenario?
I think with Chelsea, he made some big moves, no doubt about it. You got to look at Cesc Fabregas, who's, although getting a little bit in his late 20s, is still a great passer from the midfield. He can really set up their attack. Chelsea has been known to have a ton of strikers, and in and out have been strikers and strikers. They got Didier Drogba, they've got Costa, they just got rid of Romelu Lukaku finally, and Demba Ba. This is an insane amount of strikers. I think Diego Costa is going to do well for them. Didier Drogba brings that experience, and all of these strikers recently, since Drogba left, have been, although Eto'o wasn't experienced, just haven't performed that well for them. I think Costa will do the job, and Drogba will kind of nurture him into the Premier League life. I think this team isn't a definite team to win the Premier League, but Thibaut Courtois, this goalie, is very, very young. I'm assuming he's going to be the goalie instead of Petr Cech. He can really lead this team. He's been fantastic, one of the top 5 goalies in the world, and excellent performance at the World Cup. Even though they lost David Luiz, look how much money they got for David Luiz, and they still have a good defense. John Terry, Gary Cahill, and Ramirez at center defensive mid. This team has a lot of talent, and they're going to have to work together, and players like Fabregas and Oscar distribute the ball. If this team works together, I think they can really win the Premier League. And don't forget, Eden Hazard is one of the bright young stars of the English Premier League, so I think they can do well if they work together this year. They finally have that striker in Diego Costa.
Yeah, I think that they have a great shot, of course. It all depends on whether they can put it all together. Now on to another team they were talking about, of course, Arsenal. Arsenal, they looked like they were the team to beat for a little bit in the Prem last season, but then they kind of dropped off. They had a couple of injuries. But they're, of course, going after Sami Khedira this year. They've got Mesut Ozil. They've got Arteta. They've got Rosinski. They've got Mertesacker. They've got all these talented players. They brought in Debuchy. So they've really improved themselves. They also brought in David Ospina to either start or be the backup to Wojciech Szczesny. So they're put into an interesting scenario as well. They've got a lot of young talent, and they've got a decent amount of experience as well. Oh, and who can forget Alexis Sanchez? So, Jake, when you look at this team, what do you think about Arsenal? Do you think they have the ability? Do you think that they can win it? Do you think that they are, maybe a pretender? What do you think about them in terms of chances to win?
I think that's a fantastic club, and I think they absolutely can win it. I really like what we've seen from them so far at this point. I liked, again, they too had a very good summer in terms of transfers. And of course, with the injuries from last year, they still played they still played well enough. Yes, they had their trip-ups late in the season. But again, they won the FA Cup, and I think that they can absolutely do very well this year, especially if they can remain healthy. Especially with these new added pieces to their team, especially Alexis Sanchez. I'm very excited to see what Arsenal can do.
Yeah, last up, of course, I'm going to talk about them at Manchester City. The team that now, they won, of course, last year. And you know what? They're still relatively the same team, to be honest. They obviously have... I think that they should be considered the favorite just coming in. I don't know if they'll win it, but because of the fact that they are coming off of a Premier League title, they should be the favorite automatically. They have had some internal problems, such as Yaya Toure, saying that they wouldn't let them visit his brother. They were having a lot of issues in terms of his playing time. It just was a really complicated scenario there. But they got Bakary Sagna, of course. They have a talented young right back in Mika Richards, James Milner, Sami Nasri, Negredo, just so many strikers. This team has so many talented strikers, so they're obviously an interesting team to watch as well. So now we're going to move on. The top goal scorer. That's going to be a tough question this year. Of course, Suarez is no longer there, but we'll start with Byron. Byron, who do you think will be in contention, and in the end, who do you think will win top goal scorer?
All right, well, this is a very interesting question because, like you said, Suarez is out of the picture. He had 31 goals last season, and his teammate Daniel Sturridge with 21 goals. Sturridge is the main attacker now at Liverpool. Lallana is, although he can score, is more of a distributor. There will be a lot of defensive focus on Daniel Sturridge, so I don't think he will be the top scorer. One guy, even though he is a left mid, left winger, who I've talked about a little bit so far, Eden Hazard. I'm not saying he's going to be the top goal scorer, but I think he will be up there. He had 14 goals last season, 10th in the English Premier League. He is constantly on the attack. He's not just a passing left mid. He's always pressing forward. And although Diego Costa will be getting a lot of press on defense, Hazard might be a little bit more open. I'm not sure who to pick for this. I've thought about this a lot. I think if Manchester United can put it together with Louis van Gaal, it could be Wayne Rooney or Robin van Persie. Rooney, again, scoring 17 goals last year. And remember, this was with a dysfunctional Manchester United, the team that lost to Everton. Everton thoroughly smacked them. If Rooney can put it together with this Louis van Gaal team, I think he can be the top scorer. Yaya Toure scoring 20 goals last season. I don't think he will be up there. There's been problems with Manchester City. I think he'll go a little bit more in defense. I'll pick Rooney or another player from Manchester United. Watch out for Eden Hazard. And also Edin Dzeko, another player from Manchester City with Aguero. Those are two players that could mix in as well.
Jake, who do you think is in contention?
Well, if you listen to our World Cup shows, I seem to go on and on about how much I love Chile, even though I did end up picking Brazil over them. But mainly because I thought Alexis Sanchez was going to be such a crucial part of that team. And now Arsenal brings him in, and he will do very well as a striker with that team. He's going to be more successful, I think, at Arsenal than he was at Barcelona. I'm expecting very, very big things from Alexis Sanchez. He's come back to the Premier League. I'm very excited to see what he does. And I think it'll be him. I'll go with Sanchez.
Okay. By the way, and I'm going to... Right now it's 0-0, but Liverpool and Manchester City playing right now in the International Champions Cup. So that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. The top scorer is going to be very hard to pick this year. We've got a variety of people up there who you could go with. Even a guy like Lukaku, a guy like even Jay Rodriguez could get up there. Wilfred Boney had a terrific year last year. All guys in the mid 15s, 16s. But it's really hard. You know what? I'm going to go with Wayne Rooney. First of all, their midfield will be much improved, and I am still assuming that Vidal is headed to Man U because his agent basically has said it multiple times that he's probably not going to be at Juventus. But either way, their midfield is much improved. They brought in a guy like Luke Shaw. He's got a whole new system to work around. I think he'll be that striker role that they're going to look for a lot in terms of scoring goals. I think that he's going to be the crucial part of this offense. I think he gets back up to the top. Guys to watch out for, Daniel Sturridge, of course. He's still developing as a player, but there will be a lot of pressure on him. You know what? You went with Alexis Sanchez. Oliver Giroud. He was up there last year, and people are going to be watching Sanchez closely. This just opens up more room for Giroud, and Sanchez has the ability... I think he can score, but he's more of a facilitator in terms of he creates opportunities. You saw it with Chile. He scored a couple of times, but there were so many times where he would get the ball on the wing, basically able to cut in and find the open man because of what he does. He draws so much attention, so I think Giroud has a great shot as well. Not to mention he has Mesut Ozil in the midfield as well. So, you know what? I think for me, Rooney and Giroud are my top two, followed by Sturridge, but Rooney takes it. So now we get to the question that everybody's waiting for. Who wins the Prem? And we'll start with you, Jake.
I hate this so much. But I think I have to go with Arsenal. I really like what they've done. I think they're going to come back with a vengeance, more motivated than ever after last year's injuries. We know they have the ability to do it. We saw what they did in the FA Cup. They did go to the Champions League last year, and I think this is their year. I think Arsenal are going to once again rule the Premier League. Okay,
that's not necessarily bold, but it's out of the ordinary, I guess you could say. Byron, what do you think?
I think the Arsenal pick is a dark horse pick, but one that can really come true. This team has a lot of talented players. Alexis Sanchez will make a big difference on the squad. And Arsenal tried to get Luis Suarez a year ago, and they didn't get him. They kind of missed out on that striker. Giroud didn't have a great season in the end, but Alexis Sanchez will open it up. For me, though, I don't think Arsenal takes it. I think they have a good chance of finishing in the top four. But right now, I've got to say Chelsea. And I think Man U will really compete for that and really surprise a lot of people with Louis van Gaal. But Chelsea overall has so much talent. They've filled and addressed the holes that they've needed. Like I've said, I think Diego Costa, a lot of people think he's going to do bad based on his World Cup performance with Spain. He didn't really get a lot of opportunities in that World Cup to shine. I think Chelsea's overall talent is stunning. Again, Eden Hazard at left wing is going to make such a difference. The great goalie and defense of this team. Remember, they've also gone Felipe Luis from Atletico Madrid. It seems Chelsea's stealing everyone from Atletico Madrid in the end. They've got Diego Costa, Didier Drogba for experience. I think this is the best bet to win. Not that it's definite that they're going to win, because there's a lot of good teams in the Premier League this year. I think Chelsea is the best bet right now. Courtois is going to be one of the best goalies in the next 10 years easily.
You know, it's tough for me to say who's going to win. For me, it really comes down to Chelsea or Manchester City. Chelsea, of course, have Mourinho, and he's struggled, I guess, the past couple of years to bring home that league title or any kind of title for that matter. But it's really hard for me to pick against Chelsea. They've got everything going for them. Of course, they're not going to have Lampard. They're not going to have Ashley Cole. But they have Fabregas now. They've got Costa. They've got Felipe Luis. Not to mention the players already in place, such as Hazard. You've got Oscar. Even if he doesn't play that much, just having him as an option. It's just so much talent on this team, not to mention Thibaut Courtois. Manchester City have a lot of talent as well, don't get me wrong. They've got, of course, Vincent Kompany is one of the best center backs in the game. But I just don't know if Manchester City can repeat. It's been so difficult to repeat over the past few years. I just don't see it happening. I'm going to agree. I'm going to go with Chelsea here. I think that Manchester City ends up in second, and in third, I'm going with Manchester United, but I expect it to be really, really close. So yeah, Manchester City second, Chelsea first, Manchester United third. So we move on now to the transfer news, and we're going to start with Sami Khedira. Obviously rumored to go to Arsenal or Chelsea. That could actually be a big factor if he goes to either of those teams in determining who wins. Jake, what are your thoughts on Sami Khedira?
Oh, you blanked out there. Did you say Jake or Byron?
Jake.
Oh, what are my thoughts here? Look, he was so close to going to Arsenal, but now Bayern have entered behind. And I'm sure it's intriguing for Khedira to perhaps return to Germany. However, Real Madrid still see Arsenal as the frontrunners. And I think that, well, yes, it's interesting that Bayern has maybe come into this, as perhaps the rumor mentioned that plan, especially considering that they were forced to transfer Toni Kroos to Real Madrid. They can be getting Khedira in return. I do think that it'll still go to Arsenal, but it's certainly something to keep an eye out for when it comes to Bayern.
You know what? Real Madrid definitely probably wants to shop him, considering they've had a couple of big moves and they've got to fund it. And I think, you know what, Keylor Navas apparently getting frustrated that he hasn't been signed, but I think one of the big reasons is that they really haven't had that massive splash. Alvaro Morata for $20 million was obviously a big deal, but they're looking to either get Khedira or Di Maria off the books before they, I think, sign Keylor Navas. But I think, you know what I think he's going to go to Chelsea. I think that they're going to give him to Mourinho. Arsenal, of course, the front runner probably. Bayern makes a strong case as well. But I think they're going to give him to Chelsea. They really don't want anybody to go to Arsenal at all. They didn't want. They gave Benzema a new deal basically because they didn't want him to go to Arsenal. They don't want to give anybody to Arsenal. So I'm putting Arsenal off of this. I say Chelsea gets Khedira. Byron.
Well, I think with Bayern Munich, some people are saying since Kroos is leaving, it makes sense to bring in Khedira. Well, Kroos is an attacking midfielder. He does not play much defense. It would make sense for him to go to Bayern. Makes sense for Khedira to go to Bayern Munich. He's more of a defensive midfielder, but can also help out on the attack. It makes sense for Bayern Munich, and I could see that happening. I'm not sure if him going to Chelsea would necessarily work out. And also, I agree with you saying that Arsenal. I think the best chance right now is Bayern Munich because they don't want him going to Arsenal. Arsenal, by the way, doesn't exactly need Khedira. Khedira's not that high impact of a player. He's just one piece that you can put in and will be a good defensive stopper, good on the attack. He's in his late 20s, but he's not the biggest impact player left of all the transfer in this transfer window.
Okay.
So now we move on to Everton and Romelu Lukaku. Of course, the Chelsea striker was on loan with Toffees this past season, and it did pretty well. But now He's officially a member of Everton. There's nothing to loan anymore. 28 million euros. Everton has signed the ex-Chelsea striker. According to The Guardian, Romelu Lukaku said he has, quote, no regrets after the move, saying, I don't want to be on the bench for 10 years. Roberto Martinez thought he made a real football statement here. Of course, Byron, as an Everton supporter, this is big news for you guys. What do you think about this?
Yeah, everyone's pumped about this move because Everton, it's not necessarily a really cheap club. They have some money, but this is the most expensive transfer they've ever made. 27 million euros. Real Madrid seems to buy players for 80 million euros all the time. Anyways, this is a big splash move for Everton, and this is a young player. Romelu Lukaku scored over 13 goals for them last season, and he's very young. He's going to get better and better. He's going to get better and better over the next few years. He's going to be a great class player for them in this year. They're just going to hope that he doesn't go to a team like Real Madrid or some other team for a lot of money later. I think this is what Everton needed. They saw how good he was last year. Before Romelu Lukaku, they had Jelic, who was a really bad striker for them. They just couldn't finish. With Lukaku, they got that striker that could finish. They had good midfielders, good right backs and left backs with Leighton Baines and Seamus Coleman. But they finally got that striker in Romelu Lukaku that can take them to the Champions League. He's a premier goal scorer. He's not the best dribbler, but just his ability to score, that is going to make such a difference for Everton. It's a huge move. And also, one other move I want to bring up that they made, Ross Barkley, another really young England player that is a good move for the future. What I love about Everton, these aren't old players at the end of their career. These are young players that are very good right now and will be for the next few years. It really makes Everton a great team, and I'm really excited about it.
Well, of course, Lukaku certainly made his name known to Americans in the World Cup, when after a very quiet few games in Brazil, he scored against the United States. Now he's back in an Everton jersey. Will he be able to do as much scoring there? What will be the impact that he makes for Roberto Martinez's squad? No.
Well, let's start with this. In the games against Belgium, of course, he got with Belgium, he got benched for Divock Origi, but to be honest, that was kind of a mistake in terms of the coach. Origi was doing great off the bench. I don't think you mess with that because of the fact that he was playing as a terrific super sub and giving them that spark. And Mark Wilmots, basically, when he brought Lukaku off the bench, Lukaku would do well. When he brought an Origi off the bench, Origi would do well. But Lukaku has shown that with Everton, he plays very well. I think one of the things with Belgium that kind of counteracts him is that they have so many options up there. You can go with Mertens. You can go with Hazard. You can give it to Witsel for a long shot. I think with Everton, he's going to be more of the center of attack. He is the main goal scorer. They need him more to be that main goal scorer. And I think he's going to play a lot better in the Prem. And I think he's really going to show what he has in terms of talent. And you know what? I think Chelsea's going to regret it, letting him walk. And I think that he's going to be a very important part of this Everton team. And if they do make a run into the Champions League, I think it's going to have a lot to do with Lukaku.
I feel like with Everton and Lukaku and Chelsea overall, they're obviously going to regret it long run because from what we've seen, Lukaku was going to be a world-class player for the next couple of years. But thinking Chelsea's situation, they've had guys like Lukaku and Ba rotating in and out over the last few years. And Mourinho hasn't been satisfied with their play. Lukaku and Ba coming off their loans and don't do exactly what Mourinho wants, so he ships them out again. It's been this really train of transfers and loaning out. So we just decided to get Diego Costa. You have Diego Costa, still Demba Ba somehow, and also Didier Drogba. There isn't room for Romelu Lukaku. He's just too talented to keep on the bench. And I feel like at this point, there's been so much bad things that have happened at Chelsea for Lukaku. They just wanted to get rid of him. And even though they might regret it long run, it's a necessary move right now for them.
Well, sure, we're all very eager to see what Lukaku does with Everton. But now, from scoring goals to saving them, Guillermo Memo Ochoa from Mexico. Of course, made a name for himself during the World Cup as well. Really, especially with that shutout against Brazil. Last year, he was with Ajaccio of League One. He made more saves than anybody else, any other goalkeeper in League One last season, with 147 of them. However, now, after the World Cup, he has made a name for himself. High-profile clubs, especially other members of League One, are making offers for him, but apparently he is completely set on signing with Malaga, Spanish club. Malaga? Is that right? I got that right?
Malaga, yeah.
Alright. Don't want to pull an Aloha Black or anything like that. So, what do you guys think about the impact Ochoa will make? Do you think he can continue this wave of momentum after the World Cup? Byron, we'll start with you again.
So I think with Memo Ochoa, I actually reviewed his International Man of the Match card when he got that for Mexico. He's about 27, 28. He looked fantastic for Mexico, no doubt about it. And he said himself that he is looking for a challenge. At this point, I think Real Madrid and FC Barcelona, those clubs have taken their options elsewhere. Of course, FC Barcelona is signing Claudio Bravo, and Marc-Andre Ter Stegen, and Real Madrid seeming to be closing in on Keylor Navas. I think Ochoa can really succeed against Malaga. They have the same ambitions, that being Ochoa and Malaga. They both have the same ambitions of becoming really big teams and players in the Liga. Malaga isn't a top club in the La Liga, but they look to be rising. And Ochoa fits in there, does a great job, has a fantastic season. In 1 or 2 years, I could see him going to a big-name club when he is ready, or when the world has really seen him. He shined in Brazil, did incredible, but I think he wants to go to a team like Malaga where he can really, really grow and be fantastic and then go to a bigger club. He's a fantastic goalie. I was really impressed with him. It came out of nowhere, and I think he can really succeed with Malaga if they sign him. He has other options too, though, Marseille, but like you said, it really looks like he is set on going to Malaga.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Olympique Marseille is another team that we're looking into. As well as Napoli, coached by Rafa Benitez. Really, of course, there's Spanish players like Diego Lopez, Iker Casillas. We will see how that turns out, but again, it looks like Malaga is the destination for Memo Ochoa. Noah, your thoughts? Do you think he can keep it up?
Well, it's going to be definitely hard, especially if he decides to go to Spain. I think that's the big challenge for him. He's going to be going up against people, I mean, obviously only a couple times a year, but he'll be going up against Ronaldo, Bale, and this is mainly just Barcelona and Real Madrid, but just them by themselves. Suarez, Messi, Neymar. Just from those two teams, I can name plenty of people. There are also a lot of other talented scorers in La Liga. Of course, we will be talking about those top scorers at a later show when we do our La Liga predictions. But it's going to be a lot more difficult, I think, than France, where you only have the PSG and the Monaco, really, who dominate. Besides that, it's not really that deep of a league in terms of, talent and in terms of goals, scores. I think this will be the real challenge for him. I think he can actually do relatively well. I don't think it's going to be impossible for him. He already put on a terrific show in terms of the World Cup, and obviously he wants to head over to Malaga, so he's ready to accept that challenge. And you know what? He put on a good World Cup. It's going to be a lot more difficult. I don't expect him to have that same kind of year he had with Ajaccio, with Malaga, but I do expect him to put on a pretty solid performance to continue what was a terrific World Cup.
I think Ochoa had a fantastic season for, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, Ajaccio. Let's pretend I pronounced that right.
Ajaccio? I don't know. It sounds more Italian.
What I'm looking at, he was, I think, one of the top goalies in that entire Liga 1. And so to top that off with a great performance in the World Cup, he got robbed of a Golden Glove. Maybe if Mexico made it farther, he would have gotten the Golden Glove. But he had a fantastic season, a fantastic World Cup. He looks to be at his prime right now. And I feel like if he did that well against players like Neymar, he deserves a chance to be against some of the top players in the La Liga. It's going to be a huge challenge, but that is what he wants. That is what he has stated. He wants to be in net against these top teams. And I think if Malaga can get a good goalie like Ochoa and get some more attackers around him, they can rise in the La Liga. It's going to be a challenge for him, no doubt about it, but like we've seen in the Liga 1 season and also in the World Cup, he might be ready for it.
Well, of course, back across the pond, we leave Mexico and we go back to the UK. In England, again, we'll talk Everton here. Ross Barkley has signed a €65,000 a week deal. He'll be with the club until 2018. So Ross Barkley, of course, said it was a dream of his to get this new deal to stay at Goodison Park in Everton. Again, another crucial signing for Everton. You know, there are a lot of rumors tying him to Man City, but Everton will keep Barkley. No, I'll let you go first this time. What do you think this signing means for Everton? How crucial is it for them down the line?
Well, it's big. You know, there was a time where, of course, Manchester United or Manchester City would have gotten him, and Everton once again would have been left without their talent. But I think Everton's really committing to a run at a Champions League spot, and they aren't doing it with expensive older players. They're not going after that stud right now. They're not trying to go after a James Rodriguez, which they probably couldn't afford anyways, but not going after any of those amazingly big named stars that'll cost them €80 million, which is an obscene amount of money. No, they're going after the young players, the players that will impact their future, that they can build a team around. They're taking the Southampton approach, not the Southampton now where they get rid of everybody, but like a Borussia Dortmund, an Atletico Madrid, both of whom really just built up their team from young players because they don't have that same amount of money. And look at both of them. They both made runs to the Champions League final. So Everton, I feel like, is trying to take that similar model and build on it.
Yeah. What strikes me most about the players on Everton is that Ross Barkley is homegrown. Leighton Baines is also homegrown. These are players Everton took from when they were younger and made them really good. These players have become much better at Everton. They've grown at Everton. And Ross Barkley, who's very, very young, this is a great move for Everton. Keeping Ross Barkley, who's going to get much better over the last 5 years, could be even better than Wayne Rooney, is a great move for them. Ross Barkley came out and said, I'm not going to do what Wayne Rooney did to Everton a while ago, where he started off for Everton and he just went for Man U, and he was doing great at Everton, and I'm sure Noah's being happy about this one, but he left Everton, went to Man U, did incredible, and it wasn't the same story this time. Although Barkley's a little bit younger and probably wasn't playing as well as Rooney was at this time, he decided to stay, and that's a big commitment to make. He feels at home, and it's a great step for Everton, who's not a high-budget club, to keep a player like Barkley and then go out and keep Romelu Lukaku. It's a great move for them, and I'm really impressed with Everton. There's hope for the Toffees after all.
Yeah, you know, it's really nice to see players stay at home when you see all these big clubs snatching guys up, especially when you see sort of the same thing on Southampton. They've lost a lot of guys over transfers. We don't have enough time to talk about what's going on there today, because there is someone that is more, perhaps, vital to the soccer world, if you catch my drift. Arturo Vidal. The speculation is rampant. It goes back and forth between Juventus and Man U. Just a quick web search, you'll see NBC Sports says that he's going to Man U. Call Outside says he's going to Man U, but Daily Mail UK says that he's going to Juventus. Metro says he's going to Man U in the next 24 hours. Where do you guys think he will go, and where do you think he fits best? Will it be with Louis Van Gaal's club at Old Trafford, or will it be with Massimiliano Allegri with Juventus? Byron?
I think he's going to end up at Manchester United, and Arturo Vidal was fantastic for Chile, fantastic for Juventus, and I'm sure they love to keep him, but picture Arturo Vidal on Manchester United. They got Fellaini last year. He was disappointing for them. There's been talks about him leaving. Put Vidal there at center defensive mid. You have Rooney at center attacking mid. At striker, Robin Van Persie. Of course, that is a very good combination. Vidal's not just an aggressive defender. He's also good on the attack. There's a reason every year in FIFA he gets a team of the season where all of his stats are above 80. He's just a monster scorer, a monster defender, and that would be a great move. I think the British tabloid and the press always is reporting stuff that might not necessarily be true. But obviously, there's been a lot of speculation about Arturo Vidal. I think he's going to end up at Manchester United, and if he does, that pretty much seals the deal for me. Manchester United could basically win the English Premier League.
Yeah, well, Allegri wants this speculation to end, and apparently he said it himself. Juventus boss, quote, Vidal will stay here, and he's very happy about this. I spoke with him about his fitness. We're happy he will stay with us. So, there's no really finite... We don't really know where he's going. Now, of course, Noah, as a Man U supporter, there might be a little bit of bias here, but many people do believe that he will go to Manchester United. If that does happen, well, first, do you believe that will happen? And if so, what do you think he will have? What effect do you think he will have on that team?
Well, let's start with this. Arturo Vidal is one of the best box-to-box midfielders in soccer, if not the best. And first of all, he's going to bring in stability in the midfield for years to come. Him and Ander Herrera would just improve that so much, provide a very, very stable future for them. I think it would be a great move, not to mention I think it would make them one of the favorites and take away some of the pressure from Wayne Rooney and Robin van Persie. For me, if they get them a Premier League title, for me, isn't out of reach if they can bring him in. And I think it starts to attract even more big-name players. Louis van Gaal making the right moves, figuring out his future formation, how he's going to play it. I really love what he's doing. I think Vidal will be the next piece in that movement, and I think it would be perfect for them in their quest to get back to the Champions League and to get back to Premier League glory.
All right, well, of course, it'll be interesting to see where Vidal goes. Will he stay, as Juventus has really reiterated time and time again, or will he go to Man U? Apparently, his agent Fernando Fezovic is working around the clock. We don't know, but what we do know is that it is time for our final signature segment, Own Goal. I think I'll kick this one off. What's Own Goal? All the bloopers and funny things that happen in the soccer world that sometimes things just don't go right. And you had a perfect example of that last night. Of course, in the International Champions Cup friendly, Man U against Inter Milan, and Man U's official TV station went out and they kind of messed up a little bit, perhaps. They completely jumbled the names and pictures up completely inaccurately. If you take a look, we will post the picture on the Facebook page. If you take a look, though, I don't know how they could have messed this up this much. It just wasn't very good friendly in terms of avoiding bloopers for Man U. Apparently, the stadium, I believe it was FedEx Field, said welcome to Old Trafford instead of Old Trafford. So, typo or brain fart, we're not sure. But, of course, it's all nice for us to get a laugh out of that. Noah.
Yeah. Rooney, first of all, just to clarify some of the things. Lindegaard. Yeah, that's David De Gea's face, not Lindegaard. Chris Smalling looks nothing like Chris Smalling, of course. I guess I can see the Mata and Rooney confusion. They kind of do look slightly similar after I look at this. But Mata, of course, he is in place of Rooney in place of Mata, and it's all just jumbled. Valencia is definitely not white. Also, I think that probably should have been the big thing. Okay, I don't think that could have been a typo because Old Trafford, that's two D's.
But the D's right next to the F.
No, there are two D's. Just two. Traddord.
Yeah, but the D
Trafford.
Right next to the F on the keyboard. I mean,
that's true. But typing in two D's and nobody that's just horrible. Okay, on to the next one. Twitter campaign. Manchester City decided to launch this campaign with the hashtag #AskJesus or Ask Jesus for Jesus Navas, a Q&A. And, well, when you have the hashtag #AskJesus, there's bound to be some funny things out there. First one. If you could turn water into anything, what would it be? Hashtag #AskJesus. Hashtag Manchester City FC. How does it feel playing against playing against Moses in the Premier League? Of course, referencing to Victor Moses. And also, so what exactly happened between you and Mary Magdalene? So basically, they took it literally. Hashtag Ask Jesus. Next time Manchester City might want to actually consider what they're writing. Just a tip for Manchester City.
Yeah, hashtag Ask Someone doesn't seem to be working for soccer, and it doesn't work stateside either. Of course, NYCFC recently signed Frank Lampard, and they had him control their Twitter account for a Q&A, and decided that here's the hashtag you guys are going to use. Instead of Ask Lampard or Ask Frank, they went with hashtag Ask Lamps. That didn't work out too well. Some popular questions. Why is nobody using the poorly chosen hashtag Ask Lamps hashtag to ask questions about lighting fixtures? I guess I'll have to step in. More of them as well. I mean, Ask Lamps, what do you think? Hashtag Ask Lamps, what's your favorite bulb wattage? And of course, hashtag Ask Lamps, what's your problem with the eye in Pixar? So, again, think things through, guys. Of course, if you were in charge of social media one day, just really think through spelling, other meanings perhaps, just make sure you got it all under control, because the trolls are strong and alive on the internet, and it makes for a good laugh for all of us.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we've concluded the show. It's been a great show. So let's, final shout-outs, anything you want to add before we, finish? Byron.
Well, I guess once again, my YouTube channel, Bison, I'm going to post a link from this actual, for this actual show on my channel for viewers FC. But thank you guys for having me once again. I hope to join in more of these shows, because football has become my main passion over actually some American sports lately. So thank you, Noah and Jake. It's been a great show.
Yeah, of course. Be on any time. And of course, Jake, what do you have to say?
Well, not that this necessarily has to do with soccer or myself, but of course yesterday, if any of you saw, the UCLA campus was flooded just 2 blocks away from me. I just want to say I'm glad everyone is safe. It's too bad that something like this will happen, but the gym will be okay. Probably the Pavilion will be open for this season soon. Hopefully they can get everything done soon. And hopefully the city of Los Angeles has learned their lesson that water pipes that have lasted longer than 2 world wars need to go, because if you're dealing with 1921 water pipes, stuff like this is bound to happen. And of course, thank you all for listening. Well,
yeah, of course, and last but not least for me, you know what, Real Madrid had a tough International Champions Cup. You know, lots of injury, health concerns kept some of the big players out of the games. To the fans who ran onto the field. Oh, there's a dinging.
actually, it's a fan trying to run into the segment. They haven't learned the lesson yet, man.
Who is that from, though, by the way? Is that you?
I believe that's from me. I'm actually a fan, and I'm running into your segment. I want to be on the field with my 20 best friends who decide that security is lame. Yeah,
so at the Real Madrid game, what he's referencing to, Real Madrid, 83rd minute, 2 fans ran onto the field, and for the first couple of seconds, the security doesn't react. Finally, security reacts, and fans think, hey, wait, nobody's doing really anything about them, so why don't we run on? And gradually, more and more fans ran on. I think maybe 10 to 15 ended up on the field, running around, high-fiving players. And for a good 8 minutes, security had to deal with it. Really bad. I mean, it was really bad, like, their handling of the whole situation. It was funny to see, nonetheless. That was the highlight of the game yesterday for me. That's depressing. Manchester United, won their game, and I was excited for Real Madrid, and then they lost 1-0. But hopefully Real Madrid does better in La Liga and in the Champions League than they did in the ICC. Of course, they're going to have James Rodriguez and Toni Kroos. So, with that, thank you everybody for listening. It's been a pleasure as always. We hope you guys enjoyed. So, for Byron Tollefson, Jake Lightacre, I'm Noah Taborda, and see you guys later.
Thank you.